Thank you for joining us. Today our show is going to be about tennis for life. With us today we have Dr. Rives Chalmers, orthopedic surgeon, Los Gatos Community Hospital, and Dr. Tiffany Gorman, sports medicine, and Gordon Collins, director of tennis at Courtside Club Los Gatos. So tennis for life, that means from like 0 to age 100. So at Courtside, what do we have for these people?
Well, we really get them started at around 4. If they're not potty trained, we don't allow them on the court. We came up with that as, you know, a baseline. And we got great programs. They usually are for 40, 45 minutes for the 4 to 5-year-olds. We bring out special rackets and balls for them so that it's a very positive experience. A regular adult racket and a ball for the kids is just uncontrollable. So you want to have, you know, something like this where it's a foam ball, soft on the racket. The racket head, the rackets are shorter so that the racket head is closer to the hand, so that the junior would have more control. So, and then as they get older, the rackets get to be a little longer, and
they don't really get injuries at age 4. Is that right? I don't think you see them with tennis injuries then. It's usually a little later.
I usually don't see any injuries at age 4, but Tiffany might know more about that.
I wouldn't say we see too many injuries, but one interesting thing about getting children out at 4, especially in today's world, is that the population now, we're seeing in the U.S. almost 20% childhood obesity. So I think getting kids out at age 4, running around with rackets that aren't going to hurt them is a great thing.
Also, they need sunblock.
yes.
So then the next level, when's the next level they go in? Age 6?
The 6 through 9-year-olds, they're now graduating to a larger racket. You can have different types of balls that they progress through. So low compression balls, so that the balls once again aren't flying all over and they can actually have a rally. And then when they get to be that 10, 11-year age, then you could start getting them into, quote, adult rackets. You want to make sure that they're getting into the right size grip and the weight for a junior, you know, depending on how stronger they are.
So do we ever see injuries starting in teenage years for you?
Sure you do. I would say, you know, some of these kids who play very competitive tennis get into overuse type of problems with tendonitis, you know, rather than broken bones and things like that. I don't think that they get the middle-age injuries like the sore shoulders so much, but it's just, you know, their muscles are tired.
So would they start getting some injuries? So we have so many bones here.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the upper extremity. What type of injuries do they get like at age 13 when the boys start really hitting the ball? Don't they start being quite powerful by then?
I would say at 13 you can get shoulders, wrists, you know, as the boys naturally just try to be a little more macho and hit the ball harder and harder whether they're ready to or not. Mm-hmm. And, you know, sometimes they're just a little too frail to try to hit the ball as hard as they want to, and I think that's when they go see Tiffany and Rives for when the problems persist.
Right,
So,
and
yeah.
at that age it's mostly an overuse sort of a thing, so it doesn't end up being a structural problem that goes on and on and on.
No.
I think Rives, sorry Gloria, I think Rives brings up a good point about being overuse, and one of the problems that we're seeing, especially in a sport like tennis where there are aspirations you can do this the rest of your life, you have kids at an early age focusing on tennis as a sport year-round. So instead of when we were growing up we did soccer, then basketball, then softball or baseball, now you have teenagers that are focusing all their time and energy to tennis. Therefore, we're seeing more overuse injuries in the teenage population.
And you probably see overuse injuries as they get a little stronger. Like by the time they're 19, 20, there are probably a lot of injuries that can occur. Do you see that, Gordon?
I would say we probably see more in the girls at that stage because the guys develop later, and so around 17, 18, they're really starting to come into their own. So by the time they're 19 or 20, they're usually pretty solid. A lot of the gals don't have the upper body strength. They haven't, so that's where they might be getting more of the injuries at that age, I'd see.
Do you see, at that age, do you see girls and boys? Which one's more for injuries?
I'd probably see the women more. And of course, in my practice, I'd see specific orthopedic injuries like the sprained ankles, tennis elbow, things like that. In general, tennis is a nice sport because it is not very injury prone, like a football or even a soccer. And a lot of the people who play tennis all the time are in great shape. Ask them how many injuries they have during the course of a year, and many of them have no injuries at all. So that I think tennis has always been a nice game for keeping yourself in shape and not being injury prone. But the injuries that I see, of course, would be like chronic tennis elbow and a sore shoulder and things like that.
Now, do we have an elbow here? We have an
We
elbow.
do. I can manufacture an elbow from the joints. We don't have that. The classic tennis elbow that people hear about, this is a right arm. And here's the elbow. And the problem that people have with tennis elbow is tenderness out on the outside, right here. And it's where a number of muscles come together with a tendon and plug into the bone. And when they use those muscles and the weak point is going to give a little tear, this is where the tear occurs, and then that hurts.
And probably if it's on the outside, that means that they're hitting the ground stroke incorrectly or the serve.
All the above. Yes. Not that you would ever do that.
Right.
But I think it's oftentimes when they're hitting late, and it's most of the time on a backhand that we would see when somebody leads with the elbow and they're hitting back here, and now all the force goes to the elbow. That'd be my interpretation.
Right, and it's the muscles which try to pull the wrist in that direction. So that's for a right-handed person, they'd be hitting like this. And Gordon knows the most about how to hit the stroke properly after they've been hurting for a while, and it can be pretty serious. They can come to Tiffany or they can come to my office, and it's worthwhile talking about the common treatments that we render to people who've gotten that far. The classic treatments of rest and ice, compression, say with some sort of an ACE wrap, and you don't really elevate that. Beyond that, you can take medications. Occasionally people will go for cortisone shots, which are very helpful but are usually temporary over 3 to 4 weeks. And then there are braces, which can be very helpful.
So this would be like an elbow brace.
Yeah, this is a
You can
no
demonstrate
bells
on me.
and whistles sort of a brace. And the purpose of a tennis elbow brace, and I just thought I would show people, even though the pain occurs here, the purpose of the counterforce brace is to put pressure below that point where these muscles are. When you grip, the muscles will shorten and you'll get a little bit of enlargement. And what you want to do is have a non-stretchy brace, which as that enlarges, it increases the pressure here. There will be less pull on this painful spot, and so people feel better while they're doing it. You usually want to have some sort of a D-ring because that allows the person to pull it on with one hand. Whenever they've got a tennis elbow, you can't have a regular Velcro thing where you have to use 2 hands to put it together.
Also one hand.
So you have a D-ring. Now this one has no padding. There are a lot of fancy ones that are a lot more comfortable, but this is a basic tennis elbow brace.
So there, we're all solved now. Now, what happens with the ladies who play? First of all, you have the teenage girls who then are growing taller, and they're also trying to get muscular strength to hit the bigger balls when they're 16, 17. And then they must probably have to do weight training, and then they still get injuries. So what do you think, Gordon?